1. Brute force. Imagine someone strapped to a 10-ton truck. Now imagine that person pulling the metal monster with just their own body strength. It sounds like fiction, but it's reality. Brute strength record holders have dragged entire planes through airports just to get into the Guinness Book. The human body reaches absurd limits when trained. Weightlifters like Eddie Hall have deadlifted over 500 kilograms, half a ton, the weight of a full-grown horse. This isn't just muscle, it's tendons, ligaments, and an almost inhuman pain tolerance. The curious detail? Science suggests that our muscles could generate up to 30% more force, but the brain brakes to avoid destroying the body. In extreme moments, this biological brake switches off, and ordinary people have even lifted cars to save someone trapped. It's called hysterical strength. In short, brute strength proves we're stronger than we think, literally. But while muscular power is impressive, the real magic begins when speed enters the picture. 2. Extreme speed. In 2009, in Berlin, a man became a legend, Usain Bolt. The Jamaican ran 100 meters in just 9.58 seconds, a world record to this day. Human speed depends on muscular explosion, technique, and near-perfect biomechanics. Bolt's stride reached 2.44 meters, while his body produced forces equivalent to over 1,000 kilograms with each stride. A literal lightning bolt. The curious detail? For the first 30 meters, Bolt wasn't in the lead. He was slower at the start, but his acceleration and top speed were so absurd that no one could catch him. It's as if he had an extra gear in the engine. And most impressively, studies indicate that, theoretically, the human body could reach nearly 9 seconds. But this would require rare genetics, extreme training, and perfect track and weather conditions. Until then, Bolt's record remains untouchable. If top speed fascinates, the next feat is about something even more incredible: keeping your body moving for hours without stopping. 3. Surreal Resistance. If Bolt dominates the seconds, other humans dominate the hours. We're talking about marathon and ultra-marathon runners, people who run distances that would make anyone give up just by looking at the map. The classic marathon is 42 kilometers, but there are races of 100, 200, and even 500 kilometers. The human body, when trained, becomes an efficiency machine. Marathon runners use up to 90% of their heart capacity for hours, burning glycogen and fat as alternating fuels. It's like a biological hybrid car. One of the greatest feats is that of Giannis Kouros, known as the man who feels no pain. He ran over 303 kilometers in 24 hours, non-stop. Fun fact: there are reports of runners entering a flow state, a physical and mental trance in which the body seems to tune out fatigue. The brain releases endorphins and natural painkillers. It's the body tricking itself into continuing. If endurance is already impressive, wait until you see humans turning their lungs into tanks, holding their breath for minutes that seem eternal. 4. Iron lungs. While some run to exhaustion, others challenge the impossible underwater. Freedivers can hold their breath for minutes that seem like eternity. The world record? Over 11 minutes without breathing. Yes, 11. The human body activates the so-called mammalian diving reflex. The heart slows, blood pools in the vital organs, and even the lungs contract to withstand the pressure. It's as if the body has a secret submarine mode. A legendary name is Herbert Nitsch, known as the deepest man on Earth. He reached a depth of 214 meters while freediving, the equivalent of a 70-story building. But he paid the price: blackouts, brain trauma, and a recovery that nearly cost him his life. Fun fact: many of these divers train not only their lungs, but also their minds. The secret isn't just oxygen, it's absolute mental control to slow each heartbeat. If surviving without air is already insane, get ready. In the next feat, some humans manage to defy not nature, but their own memory. 5. Infinite memory. It's not just the body that breaks records, the mind does too. In World Memory Championships, people memorize entire decks of cards in under 20 seconds or recite thousands of numbers in sequence without missing a single digit. The secret isn't being born a genius, it's technique. Competitors use the memory palace, an ancient trick in which each piece of information becomes an object stored in a mental room. Thus, numbers become furniture, letters become characters, and entire lists become living stories. Record breakers like Alex Mullen have memorized 3,000 digits of pi. That's the equivalent of spending hours reciting numbers without pause and without stumbling once. Fun fact, MRI studies show that these people don't have larger brains. What changes is how they activate areas of association and imagination. In other words, it's not a superpower, it's strategic training. And if the mind can expand to this point, prepare to see bodies bending to the impossible. Flexibility records. 6. Monstrous Flexibility. While some lift tons and others run marathons, there are those who turn their bodies into rubber. Contortionists and yogis break records by bending joints at angles that would make any doctor cringe. One of the most insane feats is that of Daniel Browning Smith, known as the most flexible man in the world. He once passed his entire body through a tennis racket. Yes, a regular racket. This ability comes from more elastic joints than normal and years of training to stretch ligaments and muscles beyond their limits. But there's a price. The risk of permanent injury is extremely high. Some contortionists develop chronic back and hip problems. Fun fact, records show that Indian yogis demonstrated feats of flexibility centuries ago, holding extreme positions for days as a form of meditation. What was once spiritual has become a spectacle and a world record. If it's already scary to see the body bend over, the next feat goes even further. Stomachs capable of swallowing absurd amounts in minutes. 7. Indestructible Stomach. Some humans have turned their stomachs into arenas. In eating competitions, record holders eat absurd amounts in minutes. Joey Chestnut, for example, devoured 76 hot dogs in just 10 minutes. That's more than 7 per minute. The human body shouldn't be able to handle this, but these competitors train by expanding their stomachs like a balloon. Unlike ordinary people, they drink liters of water to increase internal elasticity and can store food like modern camels. The curious detail? It's not just about quantity. There are bizarre records, like Michel Lotito, who became famous for eating whole objects, bicycles, shopping carts, even a Cessna airplane. Yes, he swallowed an airplane over the course of 2 years, but the price is high. Extreme intakes can cause stomach rupture and even cardiac arrest. It's the kind of record that combines glory with self-destruction. And if it already seems impossible to fill your body like that, wait until you see people balancing at insane heights, where one mistake means a fatal fall. 8. Impossible balance. Now we're entering the realm of failure. Balancing record holders defy absurd heights on tightropes and extremely thin structures. Nick Wallenda, for example, crossed Niagara Falls on a steel cable, without a safety net, with death roaring below. The human body wasn't born to walk on wires, but training turns reflexes into instinct. Every micro-adjustment in the ankle and hip keeps the body aloft, like biological stabilization software. And there's more. Slackliners have broken records by walking cables over 2 kilometers long, hundreds of meters above the ground. It requires absolute concentration. One distraction, and the wind becomes your enemy. Fun fact, in some ancient cultures, such as China, tightrope walking was practiced in temples as a spiritual discipline, not just for show. For them, traversing the void was a metaphor for traversing the mind. And if balance defies gravity, the next feat defies something even more brutal: pain itself. 9. Pain resistance. While balancing in the void is already risky, there are those who overcome an invisible enemy: pain. Wim Hof, the Iceman, spent nearly 2 hours submerged in ice cubes without freezing. His secret? Breathing techniques and mental control that maintain a stable body temperature. But it's not just in the cold. Indian fakirs lie on beds of nails, pierce their bodies with blades, and appear to ignore the pain. Studies show that they activate brain regions linked to meditation, reducing the perception of suffering. Fun fact, in scientific tests, people trained in techniques like Hof's can alter their own immune systems, reducing inflammation. In other words, pain control could go beyond records and reach medicine. And if mastering ice and nails is already surreal, prepare yourself for even more unexpected extremes: voices, screams, and ears that defy any sound limit. 10. Extreme hearing and voice. The body doesn't always break records with muscles. Sometimes it's the sound that impresses. The highest note ever recorded by a human reached 7.9 kilohertz, so high it sounds like a dog whistle. On the other hand, the lowest tone drops below what regular speakers can reproduce. And then there are the screams. Jill Drake holds the record for the loudest human scream, reaching 129 decibels. For comparison, that's the equivalent of a jet engine taking off. But it's not just power. Opera singers sustain notes for more than a minute without breathing, using diaphragmatic breathing techniques that transform the body into a perfect wind instrument. Fun fact, there are also people with extraordinary hearing. Studies have recorded individuals capable of perceiving minute sound differences, useful in professions such as musicians, tuners, or acoustic engineers. The human body becomes a combination of speaker and microphone. And if sound already seems impossible, the next feat comes from skin and bones, where biology becomes a visual spectacle. 11. Skin and bone. The human body also impresses with its seemingly trivial aspects: skin and bones. Gary Turner went down in history as the most elastic man in the world. He can stretch the skin on his neck more than 6 inches, thanks to a rare condition called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. On the endurance side, there are records of men withstanding violent impacts without breaking bones. Shaolin monks, for example, smash iron bars over their heads in training feats that seem unbelievable. The most curious detail? Human bones are proportionally stronger than concrete. The femur can support up to 30 times a person's weight, and yet record holders still manage to push this limit with extreme training and conditioning. But there's a natural limit. No matter how strong they are, bones still break. The difference is that these record breakers know exactly how to use posture, muscular tension, and mental focus to transform fragility into spectacle. And if we've already seen skin that stretches and bones that resist impacts, the next feat combines several of these abilities in one person. 12. Insane combinations. If each record seems impossible on its own, imagine those who combine several. Some people aren't content with just one feat. They accumulate dozens. Ashrita Furman, for example, holds over 600 Guinness World Records, from running underwater to balancing swords on her head. These multi-record holders aren't born superhumans. They train their bodies and minds to adapt to any challenge. Today they're pulling trucks, tomorrow they're balancing cups, and then they're running marathons in ridiculous costumes. It's creativity combined with endurance. Fun fact, Many of these records don't even require extreme strength, but rather discipline and obsession. Those who spend their lives breaking records discover that the true limit isn't in their muscles, but in their motivation. And here's the bottom line. The human body is an adaptive machine. Whether it's strength, speed, lungs, mind, or skin, each part holds a potential that seems unreal until someone decides to break it. See in the next video. You may not know it, but your body is a dim, invisible flashlight. Japanese scientists have proven that humans emit natural bioluminescence, a light so faint we can't see it with the naked eye.